I guess
So,
we're live.
it looks like you are. You might want to. You could say something or whatever. I don't know. Just to make sure. Sure it's working. You might want to blow it up too. You'll be able to see it.
Oh yeah. How do I do? How do I blow it up?
Do this. The green.
This.
That green thing. There you go.
Oh, so I can see it better. So why would I put something there? Do you need your glasses? I got them right here.
Just say hi, everybody, or something. I don't know. Whatever. You won't have a moderator, so hopefully nothing bad happens.
You could go on.
You turn the fridge on.
Your hat's funny.
What's
I turned off the oven. Ow! Of course, it's not exactly 2:30 yet.
Bring a chair in instead of here.
Yeah. Why don't you do that?
Right.
And I have on the same shirt that I always have on.
Oh, what's it? I smell food. What is that?
I'm making Chex Mix. Oh yeah, I have a Pepsi over here. I only get a Pepsi out of the fridge. I don't think I'll need.
Is anybody going to show up on this thing at all?
I don't know.
Or
I don't know.
What time on Melissa coming?
I don't know what time. It's
2:27. Well, 2:20. I don't know.
We can sit here and talk to each other.
Yeah, sure. Great.
I cut my own hair. I cut that's why it looks like it's a mess. Because I cut like that much off of my hair.
I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do in the fridge. Right. Is there a thing that tells you?
If somebody
it says it's been going for 2 minutes.
So I have these, and I'm gonna start doing some paintings on my channel, and
this is what tells you.
Some more.
There's one person on. There's one like. Those are both you, right?
Oh yeah, that's me. Those are both me.
You're the one person on, and you're the one like.
Yeah. So in March we will have been out here 3 years, and I decided to start this channel because Brian mainly does like building things on MidlifePrices channel, and the way we got started with MidlifePrices is when Brian wanted to quit his job, and we would always say we should go live off grid, but everybody said, "Oh, you're just having a midlife crisis." So Brian came up with MidlifePrices, and I said that was genius. So. If nobody shows up, that's cool. I'll just sit here and stare at myself.
I got a notification. Simply Pam is live. New Year's Eve live.
Excuse me. Uh-oh. I probably shouldn't. Can you put this back in? Will you put that in the fridge for me? Because
where's it supposed to go?
It goes in the very top. We have a really tiny fridge.
I think I checked that it was closed because it wasn't. The very top? What does that mean? Like
very top. Oh, look, it's all crazy.
Like how?
Sideways on the right-hand side.
Right
sideways
here?
On the right. Turn it the other way, and it'll just lay in there like that.
You mean propped up though?
Propped up, yeah.
Okay. It's probably gonna fall out.
Come sit right here and talk to me. Look at his little hat. Our friends Melissa and Taylor gave him that little. You might want to bring your phone over here because.
So I'm gonna sit in front of the camera and just look at my phone the whole time. This is just the bill thing.
I'm just gonna
the truss raising.
sit here. Yeah, I guess. So our neighbors, friends and neighbors, Bill and Yvonne, have they've already started their straw bale home, and that's what we want to do too. But we don't stay home as much as they do.
Yeah.
Hey, Taylor and Melissa are here. Taylor and Melissa are in the his house.
I'll just remail.
That's exciting.
What did you want to do?
I wanted you to talk about what you're going to do.
You set up a live so that I could talk.
Yeah, I want to ask. I want to interview.
I didn't set up a live.
I wanted you to tell me what's going to happen with our foundation.
What now?
What's happening with the foundation? What's next after the water catchment? So we have 2 water tanks coming, but we have to get pea gravel. So we got a base dug, and now we got to get pea gravel put down.
We're telling 2 people that have already heard this story.
It's okay. I'm sure many people are going to join soon.
Remember
all 300.
Remember an hour ago when we talked about this?
All 300 of my subscribers are waiting patiently for 2:30. Is it 2:30 yet? Oh, 2 minutes. It doesn't matter.
There's a clock. Oh no, not a clock, but there's a timer.
It doesn't matter. If I feel like Michael in The Office when he has a party and he's like, people have been filtering in and out. Remember that? You remember that?
Was, yeah.
Okay, so tell me how we're going to do this foundation. I've been trying to get him to tell me when you know what I want. When this straw bale house will commence to happening.
It has commenced. It's happening.
It is happening.
We broke ground yesterday.
Now,
CJ pulled some weeds out of the ground for us. We broke the ground.
Yes. So I want to understand about how the tire. So we're going to use some tires for the base.
So, if anyone out there, Taylor and Melissa, is familiar with our carport build, which we've been putting videos out for
on MidlifePrices.
So the first step in our carport build was to kind of, because our land is sloped, to build up a flat pad, and we did that by placing some tires, and it was just one course of tires, and filling them with dirt, right, and packing them, and we've documented all that so that they're kind of solid, and it's almost like using a brick or a concrete block or whatever, right? So we created basically a form with those tires, a border, and then we filled behind them. So we did that on the low side of the spot we wanted to do, so because the land slopes down, right? So on the low side, we put these tires, and then that left us with basically a little cavity there. So we filled that cavity with dirt and packed it down. So basically, we brought the dirt from being slanted like this. I'm exaggerating. From being slanted like this, we put tires down here like this, and then we filled it up with dirt so that now it looks like that. How's that? So that is to create a pad. So most people would do that for a house by pouring a concrete slab or whatever. Well, we're not doing that for both cost and I'm just not a fan of concrete myself. So what we're going to do is we're going to build up dirt, and we're going to trap that dirt in with tires. So basically like a form, the same way you would make a form for concrete to hold it when you pour it. So that's how we're going to get a flat spot. So we're going to do that. That'll be bigger than the house, right? It'll extend beyond the actual house a few feet on each side, at least a few feet on each side. Right. So the house will basically be up on a little pedestal almost, in a sense, right? A pedestal of dirt slightly, at least on one side it will. On the side that was already high, it'll just be at dirt level. But on this side, we'll have built up the dirt. So it'll kind of, after the house, it'll be flat for a little bit, and then it'll kind of slope off. And again, just like the carport looks right now, the base of the carport. So that's step one. Build a pad that you can build on top of. After we've gotten that pad, then we step in So those tires are in the ground, right? We step in a little. Okay, yeah.
So are the tires going to be, is it just going to be a border, or is it going to be all tires filling in?
No, just a border.
Just a border.
So for example, the thing I just mentioned, well, actually, when we did the carport, because we had the mountain on one side and you have a high side,
right?
if you think about the carport.
Yes.
So the tires, this first step, the tires, the purpose of those tires is just to hold back the dirt, right?
Right.
It's just like putting a piece of wood up there or putting it away and you're backfilling behind it. That's all you're doing is creating a form. So for that step, for the carport, we only did 2 sides of tires because on the other side, the mountain was there. So we didn't have to hold the dirt in. And on the high side, well, it's the high side, right? So we're not building it up at all. So there's no reason to hold it in. When we do the house pad, we'll do 3 sides. We'll do a U. So on everything but the highest side, which for us is the south up there, right? Mm-hmm. That'll just be open because that'll be ground level. That's where it starts. But as it slopes down from that point, we have to add dirt, right? Well, everywhere we're going to add dirt, we have to hold it back. So that's why we'll do a U of tires, right? To hold that dirt, to keep it from spilling away or, eroding away or whatever, right?
So then what do you do with the dirt? Like, do you like have to tamp it down?
We'll drive over it, we'll tamp it, we'll beat the crap out of it, basically just so that it's packed.
But then what do you put on it?
Okay, so that was step 1. Build a pad, trap the dirt in, and get yourself a flat pad to build on. That's our building surface.
I'm watching you here.
So we're that far.
I'm listening to you.
Step 2 is now to build the actual footer for the house.
Yeah.
Where if you were using concrete, again, we're not going to build it. We're not going to pour a concrete pad, but we are going to do a footer. And what a footer is generally it would be concrete, and you would dig a foot deep, and you would pour concrete a foot deep. And then you would put your building material on top of that footer. Well, we're going to do a footer, but we're going to make that footer out of tires, out of packed tires.
So Bill had these things called toe-ups, and then that's what they did rebar and put the bales on top of those.
Rebar doesn't really.
No, but you know what the toe-ups?
But yes, I understand.
Toe-ups?
Toe-ups are really the sill plates.
Oh, sill plates.
And
okay,
you
so
put
what
nails into those sill plates, and that's why they call it a toe-up.
What would we use instead of that?
We will do the same thing. We're going to use that as well. But so if you think of Bill's house being built on a deck, Bill used 2x4 lumber, and he put it on the deck. And the point of that is to raise the bales off of whatever surface you're building on. For him, it was a flat wooden deck. Which, to tell you the truth, if you're building on a flat wooden deck, I'm not even sure why you need the sill plates at that point. But maybe just to put nails in and do the toe. I'm actually not even sure.
Well, he's using rebar, I believe.
The rebar doesn't have anything to do with this particular discussion.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, if you think of his 2x4 material that he placed to set his bales on top of,
yes,
we are also going to use 2x4s. They'll be treated. We are going to attach those 2x4s. So from the 2x4s up, we're doing the same thing he's doing. The difference is his 2x4s are sitting on a wooden deck. Our 2x4s are going to sit on top of tires, packed tires. That's the difference.
Okay, and
other than that,
I believe that in this on this channel,
other participant.
Yeah, but you know what? Even after this is over, people may go back and watch this,
sure.
So it's still useful information.
Inquiring minds want to know. Anyway,
the thing is, I can never get him.
No, I've explained this to you multiple times, actually.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Like to do a live?
To do a live.
Yeah. Okay. What else do you want to know? Did that answer your question?
Yes.
What else do you want to know?
So once.
Okay. Well, no, I should explain.
Okay. Yeah.
So you haven't even asked. There are details involved, right? So
tell me all the details.
For Bill, again, back to his wooden deck. To put 2x4s onto a wooden deck, all you have to do is screw them in, right? Well, I told you we're going to put our 2x4s on top of tires.
Yeah,
tires that are filled with dirt.
What do you screw them into?
You can't just nail or screw or
whatever. What are you
screwing
into? Then?
So, the way we're going to attach our wood sill plates to our tires is this. So again, remember we're going to have two. You have 2 sill plates because there's an inside and an outside, and the bale sits on top because the bale is 14 inches wide or whatever, right? So there's a 2x4 on the outside of the bale and 2x4 on the inside of the bale. On the inner edge and the outer edge. So you actually have 2 sill plates. It creates, and you actually put things between. It looks like a ladder on the ground, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if you picture that, Bill's is just attached to wood.
Right.
Screw it down. Fine, done.
Right.
Ours is going to be attached essentially to dirt and tires. Well, how do you actually make that connection? So what we're going to do is we're going to take rebar, however long, maybe 4 feet. I don't know. We'll see. But we're going to take rebar. We'll drill a hole through our 2x4s. We'll run the rebar through that hole. We will pound the rebar through the tire, through the dirt, down into the ground, as far as it'll go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. However, if it's 4 feet, we'll pound it down almost 4 feet, and we'll leave a little bit sticking out the top. And that top piece, so imagine this is my 2x4. I've just pounded a piece of rebar through it,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a piece of rebar sticking up like this.
Right.
I'm then going to take that rebar and I'm going to bend it over.
Oh.
And so it's going to bend, and it's going to sit on, so it's going to bend over and touch the 2x4. It now has become
an anchor,
like almost like a staple or an anchor to hold the 2x4 down. Now that's still a problem because I don't want to put the bales on top of that. That piece of rebar is now, it's like a bump on top of
right.
on top of that.
Yes.
So we're actually going to take a second 2x4. And if we have to, we can pound that rebar into that piece of wood so that it'll kind of sink into it a little bit, or not. Or we can, when we take that second 2x4 and put it on top, we can either just squeeze the two so hard that the wood is actually soft enough to squeeze around that rebar. The point is, we're going to have two pieces of 2x4, one on top of the other, and either by notching out a little section in one of them so that it doesn't the rebar doesn't get in the way, or just by squeezing them enough that the wood is soft enough that it'll just push.
How do you?
Those two pieces of 2x4 are going to squeeze together so that all you're going to see from the outside are two 2x4s. But what's in there is a piece of rebar that's in the ground and bent so that it's holding that 2x4 down to the tire.
Where
Does that make sense?
Have you seen anyone else doing this yet?
Craig and Nikki did it, but they did it not on the ground. They did it on the roof of their garage.
Okay.
When they went from the top level of tires of their garage to the, what do you call that? On a roof, you'd call it a bond beam instead of a sill plate. On the ground, it's a sill plate. Mm-hmm. On the roof, it's a bond beam.
And for those of you, Craig
thing.
and Nikki are building an earth ship, and I have some videos on that.
It's a technique that's used in earth ships because earth ships do a lot of tires. So they do the same thing. They put rebar in, they put it through one piece of wood, they bend it over, and then they put a second piece of wood on top of it. And now you have a flat surface to, in the case of a bond beam, you'll be putting either trusses or rafters. You'd be putting roofing material on top of that thing, and you want a flat surface. In our case, in the case of the floor, it's a sill plate, and for us, we're going to be setting bales on top of it, and we can put nails out of it, to hold the bales in place so that they're like a porcupine effect. So does that all make sense? That's how we're going to go from the ground. Oh, and another detail that we didn't discuss. We're still at 2 participants.
That's okay.
When we do these tires as our footer,
doesn't matter.
So generally a footer, like I said, is concrete poured at least a foot deep. And sometimes there's a lot more going on underneath that, depending on where your frost line is and stuff. So it's all about frost lines and moisture getting in. And when moisture gets in and freezes, there's heave because it actually expands and the ground moves. These are all problems that happen in houses that make them shift and crack and all kind of things, right?
Yeah. So ours won't do that.
Luckily, because our frost line is almost zero here in Arizona, even in the higher elevation, slightly higher elevation that we are, the frost line is almost zero. The idea of that going that deep and everything and worrying about that moisture is not as important here. It's not totally nothing, but it's pretty minor here. So what I'm going to do is, for the actual perimeter of the house, this footer, I'll dig basically a trench like you would dig if you were going to pour concrete into it, right? For a footer. Except generally for a footer, I think it'd be a foot wide and a foot deep. Ours will be, I'll dig a trench that'll be as wide as the tires that we're going to put. So the idea is the tires are the first layer of tires, I'm actually going to do 2 layers of tires. The first layer of tires is actually going to sit in the ground, underground, and probably come up pretty much even with the ground. That'll be the first set of tires. So if you look at the ground when we're done with the first course, you'll see a perimeter of tires, but they'll be level with the ground. So they'll be underground, and the tops of them will be level with the floor of our building area, and they'll all be filled and packed tight.
How soon can you start this?
Oh gosh! So you really don't care about the details?
No,
why didn't you just ask me when's it going to be finished?
No, I don't. No,
I've told you a million times that we're going to start this actually sort of right now while we're doing the water.
I bug him about it all the time.
It's not important when we start. It's important when we finish. We want that to be done by around March time frame so that we can start doing bale walls in March, because in March, from March to June, there's a good chance that
The
we'll
dry
be bone
period.
dry. So
That's
that's our goal.
Okay.
It doesn't matter when we start. It matters when we finish it. It has to be ready to go by March. You keep asking me when I'm going to start. It doesn't matter when I start. It matters that it's done by March so that we can put bales on them.
But what I'm wondering, is it really going to be done by then?
Sure.
Okay.
Anyway,
All
if
right.
you'd let me finish, the first layer is underground.
Yes.
The second layer will sit right on top of that. And we'll, like you would do with a brick, we'll offset them kind of, right? And so they'll be staggered
Yes.
from this level to this level. They'll be staggered over.
Mhm.
And we'll do another one like that around, right on top of that one. But now, when you look at the ground, now it'll be one set of tires under the ground and one set of tires sticking above the ground. And one of the reasons we do that is so that we're now raising our bales. They'll be the height of a tire, you know, a tire laying down, which could be,
Yes.
depending on the tires we use, let's say it's close to a foot, give or take, high. That means that our bales, so it'll be tire. So if this is the ground, tire, 2 sill plates, so a 2x4 and another 2x4
Mhm.
before the bales start. What that means is, so a 2x4 is 1.5 inches, right? When you lay it down like this. So 2
Yeah.
of them is 3 inches. So we've got almost a foot of tire and 3 inches of wood before the bale
Before
starts.
the bale even starts.
What that does is that puts your bale 15 inches off of the ground, so that when it rains and dirt flies and crap or whatever,
Yes.
you know, you want your bales separated from the ground by some amount because it protects them from
Yeah,
water.
that sounds
By
good.
the way, the reason for our sill plate, which is why I said I'm not 100% sure why Bill's even requires a sill plate because he's setting it on wood. But
Mhm.
the
Maybe
reason
just
for our sill plate
extra.
is because if you're not doing it on a wood, if you're doing it on the ground or on concrete or whatever, these materials allow water to travel, right? Concrete actually is infamous for water, what's called wicking. It will actually
Sucks
pull
it
water
in.
and pull it up. And if your bale was sitting right on top of concrete, water would go right through that concrete and right into that bale. So the
Oh,
sill plate is there to
That makes
separate
sense.
the bale, to separate the straw from
Yes.
whatever material you're setting it on top of. That's what the wood sill plate is for.
okay.
So,
So I would like to tell about.
so you're never
the-
going to ask me this again because you now understand it completely. You now
Yes,
get it. This
That's
is probably
right.
the 30th time I've told you this story, but you
I
now
really
understand it.
listened.
And
I
you'll never
really
ask
made an
again.
effort to
Okay.
listen this time.
All right. All right. I
Because
explained it pretty well. I hope that makes sense.
I have a very hard time listening or focusing, and especially because Brian tends to.
Did our viewers get that? That all makes sense? You got to let us know you're still alive out there, by the way.
Taylor, Melissa, are you
Are you
awake?
still there? Have you
Are-
walked away? Are you asleep?
Our dedicated fans.
So what else?
Oh wait, I was going
Did
to
that all
talk
make
about.
sense? What else do you got?
Yes, thank you very much for that, Mr. Price. So I wanted to talk about the bale that for when we first moved here,
That's a good thing.
I
to talk
did
about.
a test bale and I made some cob and I just covered it and
Plaster.
with plaster. So sand,
We have another viewer.
clay. Welcome. Who are you?
Who's there? Welcome,
Who's
unknown viewer.
there? Anyway, we
Oh, and they're gone.
they're like, well, I ain't sticking around for this. Anyway, I had this bale and I covered it with the plaster, and it's been out there for 2 years
I would
and
say 2 plus.
9
No,
months.
it has not. You didn't build it the day we got here. Around 2
Almost
years
2
or
years.
so.
Okay, 2 years, give or take. But we recently, so it's been out in the elements, and we recently decided that we were just gonna remove it.
It had no roof over it.
It had nothing. It was just
Some
sitting.
of the plaster had fallen off over
Yes,
time,
that's
just from
right.
weather and rain and all that stuff, and
Yep.
which is why you put roofs over things.
He's very good at talking.
So, well, you're leaving parts of the story out. This is
That's why. Yeah, that's why I like for you to tell stories.
So the reason this was such a big deal is because that bale sat out there for 2 years. Yes, it was
That's right.
plastered, but it didn't have a roof over it, so it was getting hit by rain, sun, all these things, right?
And-
More than any house wall would, because there's no roof over it.
Did you notice the
Okay.
top never really washed away?
You did actually put a little bit of concrete in that, though. I think.
Yeah, but I didn't
Right?
put that
So-
concrete on until over a
Yeah,
year
anyway.
after. Anyway,
So anyway, so the
bale.
plaster, which she
Plaster.
put on, which by the way, she only did, I think, one coat
One
of plaster ever. We never
Ever.
made any attempt to waterproof in any way. We never used any
Nothing.
lime. It was literally just mud.
Yes,
You know, mud and straw. That was it.
mud and straw.
So we're not suggesting that this is what we're going to do, but we're saying If that's all we did.
This is
And
just
it
an
got rained on
example.
like crazy, blah, 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 right? So a couple days ago, we decide, well, it's not really serving much of a purpose out there anymore. A bunch of the plaster has fallen off of it. We're like, it's kind of garbage at this point. Well, what
So
we decided
we're going to use it for compost.
Yeah, I was going to go buy a bale of straw to use on our compost. And she said, well, why don't you use the straw we have? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what that shape that's in. So I actually went over, I knocked the rest of the plaster off of it.
Wait a minute. I did that.
Well, there was
You
a bunch
knocked
left
some.
that I had
Oh,
to
okay.
knock off.
So I took my foot and kicked it over.
Oh, yeah,
like
she
I
knocked
did
it
a
over,
karate
yeah.
kick, kicked it over, and there was a big gopher hole
A gopher had
in it.
kind of, it didn't
Made
like
it
go
made a
in, but it had a
cave.
little,
It made a little
yeah.
cave in it, but there was nothing in it. Nothing came out.
So yeah, I go out and knock all that off. Strings are still on it. It's still tied. It's still tight, whatever. So of course the outside, all the edges of it, of course, are a little, you can tell they've gotten damp and they're a little brown and they're kind of hard. Oh, the green dream.
Jim!
Karate kick.
Hey, Jessica. Hey, crew.
So what was so great about this is that thing had sat out there and been beat up basically. And we didn't really make much of an attempt to protect it in any way.
Do you want to tell Jim what we're talking about?
Well, I think he might have caught this. Yeah,
okay.
so it was a straw bale sitting out there.
Oh, yeah.
So we took this bale of straw and said, okay, let's use it for the compost. It's just leftover straw or whatever. So I take it up to the compost and I do one of our bucket dumps that we do. And after that, I start taking apart a bale. You know, I cut the strings and I start pulling off chips of what a bale has, right, in chips. So I start pulling off pieces. And of course, the edges are kind of hard because they've been rained on and they had plaster on them. So they were kind of hardened and discolored a little bit. But after I broke into that thing, a chip or two, and started kind of breaking up the straw over our compost pile to kind of get the straw kind of broken up on it, inside that bale, golden brown, like it just came from the store, right? I mean, so, and this bale, I'm telling you, we had not done hardly anything to protect it. So what that tells me is...
Actually, this is the warm part of the day.
Looks cold.
Sorry.
What that tells me is bales are great, right? I mean, even with our very minimal attempt at protection, you know, we weren't even trying. It still did really well. So imagine if we put a roof over that and we do decent plaster with a lime plaster coat, at least on the outside. And you know, so we make attempts to waterproof and attempts to cover it with roofing and everything. So it should be even better, which, like I said, this thing it looked perfectly fine. So
it's going to be
so that's
awesome.
The story on the bale. That was kind of a big deal. That was a big, I always believed that to be the case, but it was nice to see it firsthand. I mean, literally 2 years have gone by, this thing had been beat to death and looked like brand new. So that was nice. What else?
I'm getting sleepy now.
Wow.
It's time for Pammy nappy.
Nappy.
Pammy nappy time.
Oh, we got another.
Well,
we're up to 4 people.
I better
paying attention.
I better snap out of it, huh? There's
straw bales can last
I can't see very
a long time in our climate. That is true, and that's one of the reasons they can last a long time in a lot of climates if you treat them the right way. But yeah, they can be tougher in cold and wet climates. I'm actually reading a book right now on straw bale building that it seems to focus on wet climates. So it keeps saying, you know, you can do this in wet, you can do this in wet or cold, and I'm like, that's nice, but we have kind of an ideal climate for it. So
first we have to get the frozen pipe thing fixed, which that should be happening.
Well, we're working on that
hopefully within the next couple of weeks.
We are still watching. All right, great.
Good job, Brian.
Taylor and Melissa are still there.
Just Brian.
Oh, sorry. I stole your show. I told you I didn't. I don't want to steal your show, but you start asking me to explain things.
You can use them to make a living roof. I would love to have I love that. Of course, can the gophers get up on this living roof?
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't be able to. They get into everything else. Anyway, I was talking. Oh, so our pipe has been freezing solid every day. So in the morning, we don't have water until about 10:30 this morning. No,
it depends.
No, it was 9:30.
Anywhere from 8 or so to 9:30. Yeah.
So guess what happens? So what happens with our toilet when the water unfreezes? The toilet fills up. For some reason, I don't understand.
Well, what's happened is
he might understand.
The water that's trapped in the pipes has frozen, has expanded.
Yes.
And when it melts, I think there's a little bit of pressure there, enough pressure there to push it.
So the toilet fills up.
Push it basically into the toilet.
And then, so we have to watch the toilet to make sure it doesn't overflow. The other morning, I didn't even, it silently snuck up
It'll
on
just slowly
me.
start to fill, and
And
you can't even tell. But it's as the ice is thawing, it's getting pushed into the toilet.
So it did overflow once.
That was for a different reason. That had nothing to do with freezing, but that was because the little lever was stuck. That was in the summer.
So. Right. Yeah, I remember. Anyway.
What else would you like to discuss?
It was crazy. It was crazy.
Which is, by the way, all these things are good reasons to have a bucket toilet. You know what a bucket toilet never does? It never overflows with water. It never leaks. It never breaks.
Yeah, the water in the trailer is freezing. So what we'll do when we get the tanks, when we get these water catchment tanks, we're going to take our hose and just fill it up. Hey, Heather, and I can't, what's your husband's name? Brian? No, that's a different person.
That's my name.
Mark. I want to say Mark.
Ooh, that might be right.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, keep going.
Heather's husband. I'm sorry. I didn't know your name, but I was talking about the water catchment tanks. Oh, we're going to take a hose. Ben. I knew it started with a B. So we're going to take a hose from the well that we're connected to now. We're just going to put it in and fill up the tank, or just one or both tanks.
We will. So, okay, to make that try to hopefully make sense, what Pam's saying is,
I'm trying.
When we get our storage tanks here, obviously it's not raining. This isn't the monsoon season. We might get a little rain, but they won't fill up, right?
Oh, no.
So because we're still connected to a well, and for the moment, at least, it's working, and we hope it continues to work.
Oh, Ozark Duke.
When we get our storage tanks here,
sorry, honey,
we will use our well connection to little by little
Rusty
fill that.
It's Rusty, Brian. Say hi to Rusty.
Hi, Rusty. So we got the house built yet?
Oh,
we're talking about it.
We're talking about
the plans.
It's happening soon.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the house, about even what we just talked about today? Maybe we could get some opinions. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I don't remember what we talked about.
Yikes. So
I already forgot.
I don't really want to show it right now because it'd be kind of hard. It's on a piece of paper.
We have drawn a house
somewhere. So one of the things that
I got Brian's donuts. These are Brian's donuts.
Do you want me to talk? Or I feel
I'm sorry.
This is your live.
I'm sorry. No, it's our. It's all ours. No. It's kind of like a bank account, even though we have separate accounts.
I don't want it to look like I'm taking over.
Ours.
But you're not really talking about anything.
Okay, go. What were you about to say? I'm sorry.
So we have drawn a layout. So one of the things that the carport did for us was when we put the carport in place, mainly the four corner posts, which we then did a bunch of posts. If you've seen the carport, great. If you haven't, whatever. 4 corner posts. It happens to be about the same size we want our house to be. So in this case, it's 30 feet wide by 24 feet deep. And if you multiply that, I think it's about 720. I think something like that.
I just don't know.
That would be wow. Square footage, interior space. Now, obviously, if you put bales there, it would shrink it. So let's say we put bales on the outside of that, right? Because obviously the bales are thick walls. But let's say we put the bales on the outside of that. So let's say that's our interior space. What we did was we used the carport when we had the 4 corners up, even before we had put the roof on and everything. We went out there and walked around and said, if this is the size of our house, let's talk about, it's the same orientation. It's the same size.
So
let's talk about where would a bedroom be? Where would a kitchen be? Stuff like that, right? And now we can look at, sun goes from here to here.
It's over here somewhere.
So we talked about that a little bit. We got a very rough idea. And then we drew it on paper. And Craig actually drew it on paper. Thank you, Craig. But, on graph paper to kind of get it to scale and start to figure out, okay, how big is a bed, a sink, a shower, a refrigerator, different things, right? And we started plopping them in and to see how, whether we could make all the spaces that we wanted and all the things.
Can I put it up there?
You can. I don't know how well they'll be able to see it, but yeah.
Wait.
So
let's put this here. I can't see it, but maybe y'all can.
You can see it a little bit.
The
point is that we've done it. It doesn't matter what the details are because actually we've changed our minds since then.
Oh, this is before it was flip-flopped because we decided to.
So Ozark Duke just said, so if you're going to catch rainwater, is it for all use or just washing things? Will you be drinking it? It will be for everything. It will be our only source of water. So we will bathe, shower, wash dishes, drink. It is all of our water. That's
we
the idea.
we use a Berkey. It's called a Berkey water filter, and
We filter our drinking water through a Berkey, and we will continue to do that.
most people are. A lot of people know what the Berkey is, but I think it's really, really awesome.
So, so yeah, the idea is to use it all. Do you have a great plan for filter?
Great plan. Oh, like for filtering the water, maybe.
So
like
yeah, also,
tank?
if you've ever looked online at any kind of, Earthships do it. They have what's called a water organization module. The idea is, once the water comes out of those rainwater tanks, you've got a pump to kind of draw it out of there and move it over to a pressure tank, so you can pressurize it for today the trailer, eventually the house, and a pump to that pump will also push it through some filters. So yeah, there will be a series of filters that will kind of step down to remove sediment and things, and so there will be one set of filters kind of to get it to usable, washing, things like that, and then the extra level will probably just be the Berkey for drinking.
I was asking because friend who just did this in their plane has a blue light to clean.
So some people use
the house.
UV light. Some people use UV light to clean water, and that is one way to do it. It's not the only way. You can use different filters. There are different filter systems, and you can kind of step them down from this will filter out big stuff. This will filter out slightly smaller stuff that made it past that. This will filter out slightly smaller stuff. Some people, as their last step, is fairly common, is to use UV light, and that will clean it to the point where I believe it's drinkable at that point. I believe.
So I don't know.
You can also do the same with a just a different kind of filter, like a carbon-based filter or something like the Berkey uses. Or
Joe there's a guy named Joe from Homesteadonomics. He is a big channel, and I believe that he only uses one tank. And how does he? He
has multiple tanks.
Oh, he does.
Yes, he has multiple tanks.
But I thought you said he doesn't do a first flush or something like that.
He doesn't even filter it.
Right.
He said, so some people out there might know Joe Homesteadonomics channel. He uses unfiltered rainwater everywhere in his house other than drinking. So, and you could do that, but you won't die.
I thought you said we are going to do that.
We're going to filter our water. We're going to filter.
Jim.
Who dat? I'm sure Jim knows who that is.
Jim knows who that is.
If you want to watch what they did, Life Uncontained. Oh, we've seen that.
Yeah.
So yeah, UV light is one way to filter. Usually it's your last step, because the idea is it removes a lot of things. But if you feed water into UV light that has a lot of junk in it, actually bacteria can kind of hide behind, in a sense. The UV light has to actually make contact. So usually UV light is kind of your last step in filtration. But I don't think we're going to use UV light. One of the reasons is because it takes power, which we're on solar, so we're always trying to minimize power. So
believe me, Rusty, Brian will he researches everything to the point of annoyance.
Yeah, I do. So
if you saw any videos on MidlifePrices, you will see that he's very thorough.
So with these couple of rainwater tanks that we're going to have, I will also be building a very small pump room that basically will do what's necessary to get the water from the tanks to the trailer or house in a usable fashion. So that will involve a pump, a transfer pump, a set of filtration, and a pressurization tank, a pressure tank. I believe that's all I need in this pump room.
How much is that about? How much does that cost about?
Well, it depends on what you use, but it's not a giant cost.
But
it's on the order of hundreds of dollars.
Did you figure
as opposed to thousands of dollars?
4,000 or 5,000.
Well, the tanks alone, the big tanks are in the neighborhood of $2,000 a pop. So
RV pump.
Yeah, you could also I haven't decided what my transfer pump will be yet. You could do it as simple as an RV, the little 12-volt, SureFlow that everybody's got under their sink in an RV, pretty much. So
Heather's laughing at me. Oh. Heather's like,
oh,
if they only knew, I drive him. I know I'm annoying, and I drive him insane.
Yeah,
but he also is driving me insane.
Jim said a while back, and I didn't get a chance to answer it. He said, "Are you going to lay all that out on SketchUp?" So Pam flashed up the little graph paper drawing. I did take that graph paper drawing and draw it in SketchUp. Now, I did it very crudely. I didn't go into SketchUp's, design warehouse and pull out furniture and stuff, right? But what I did was I drew everything we need, meaning appliances like refrigerator, stove, sinks, cabinets, shower, toilet. I drew everything as a box in SketchUp, basically. I just made a box and I plopped it, on the little drawing. So
Yes.
I basically recreated that paper drawing onto SketchUp. And then what I did, if you know SketchUp at all, or even if you don't really have to, you can group things in SketchUp.
Hey, you're making the camera
So what I did,
shake.
I'm sorry, I'm pushing on the.
Quit
So what I
pushing
did
on
is room by room.
he wants to see the drawing again.
I
I'm sorry.
basically
Go ahead.
I basically grouped these rooms in SketchUp and basically made them into little boxes so that basically I can pick them up and move them around. Because, while I might decide I want the bathroom to be in a different location, the bathroom still is going to have those couple of things in it that it has, and probably in the configuration that it has them. So I treat the bathroom like a little block, and I can just pick it up and move it if I want to.
This is the bedroom, right?
So
Brian?
that's what we're.
Is that the
Well,
bedroom?
there's 2 bedrooms on there, so that
We're thinking about not having 2 bedrooms, though.
Wow, that's going to be nice. So yeah, so it currently has. We currently have 2 bedrooms on our drawings. We are actually still trying to figure out whether we truly want 2 bedrooms or just one, and maybe a casita outside, maybe. So.
Oh, Heather
research.
Heather's the intense researcher in the
Awesome.
family.
Always
Ben
have
is the
2
musician.
bedrooms. So one way or
Very
another,
good.
we will have 2 bedrooms. The question really is, will they both be in the house? Or will the second bedroom be like an outdoor,
Well,
next to us, right?
in
Or
our-
just a little square with a bed in it.
in our house in Chandler, we had a Murphy bed where it was a desk and it folds down. And that's what I was thinking, that we could it could be like a little office, but it could have a fold down bed for people who spend the night.
So where we are right now is, now that I've drawn this in SketchUp, we're kind of taking those things and moving them around. And a discussion we just had today with Taylor and Melissa was kind of that idea of that casita, that extra bedroom outside, where potentially we might be able to actually shrink our house that we're talking about and grow the kitchen. The thing that bothers me about that drawing is the kitchen looks very cramped. Now obviously it'll be bigger than this, but it looks very cramped and it's bothering me a little bit. So it's possible that we could pull that bedroom out, shrink the house, and still grow the bedroom, but have still grow the kitchen. Still grow the kitchen.
We just broke
leave
ground.
That second bedroom outside. So
Jim asked, when do we break ground? We just broke ground yesterday. CJ came over.
We had a machine here yesterday from our neighbor CJ, who's our road maintenance guy. He came over and with his machine, he dug me a little flat spot next to our carport to place our water tanks. So he dug me out of, because our land is all sloped, right? So he dug me a spot for the water tanks, and right next to that, which is where the house will be, he didn't grade anything. He didn't move any dirt really, but what he did was he just scraped over it because we have some brush and things. So he scraped it clean so that I can start to stake and place our tires to get ready for our form that will fill in basically the same way we did the carport floor.
The kitchen it's still not going to be that big, but.
No, it won't be huge, but it's hard to tell on paper. It looks really cramped, but it might not be that bad. And of course, we do have an open kind of floor plan of like the kitchen flows into the living space. The living room and the kitchen are they're open. So it might not be as bad as I think, just because I'm looking at it on paper, which is why we're still kind of on the fence about it. But I don't know. Just the point is, there's still the possibility to kind of yank that second bedroom and maybe put it really outside. Because we already know we want our second bathroom outside. We want an outside bathroom and shower that will function as our second bathroom. We're not going to put a second bathroom in the house.
We're worried
but we will
about
have a second bathroom.
The walls of the second bedroom taking up too much space. But maybe it could be just a really tiny bedroom.
But it's nice once
it has to fit a bed or a desk.
At least for me, it's nice to draw it in SketchUp, like I said, and have it in kind of block form and these things so that you can kind of drag them around and play with them like Legos almost and say, well, what if we did the kitchen over here? And what if we did the bedroom over here? So that's helping me a lot. So we're kind of going through that process right now to try and figure out what we like.
Rusty asked, how do you keep the power wires from the straw?
Well, I mean, okay, now you're getting farther down the road.
I don't know if he's to that step
I'll admit
yet.
I'm not there yet. There are several options, like there are with anything. So I mean, you could kind of cut into the bales. You could almost cut a channel into the bales. I'm kind of curious how Bill's going to do it, to tell you the truth. One of the advantages Bill's going to have, if you guys didn't know, upside of downsizing, Bill and Yvonne next door to us, pretty much. One of the advantages he's going to have is he can do a lot of things after the fact because he's up on this platform. He can do a lot of things from underneath after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once you've built on the ground, you really can't do that. But he's still going to have the same issue inside the house. You've got to run your wire. So, you can cut a channel into the bales and you can lay wire in there. You can either put it in conduit or not. You could keep it exterior to the wall if you wanted. That way you would have maybe aesthetic issues that you'd have to figure out what it's going to look like and how you're going to protect it. But there are options. We haven't made those choices
My
yet.
brother is an electrician, so maybe we'll give him gas money to come out and help us. I don't know if he...
Jim says, who dat?
Who dat?
So yeah, there are options is the point, but we haven't made a decision on that yet. Really what we're going for, if we haven't said it already, I think we've had a chance to tell a couple of people that I did. So, okay, let me back up a little bit. So Jim brought up the SketchUp thing. Just for everybody to know, Pam has a separate channel here, and we both kind of deal with both channels a little bit. But over on our Midlife Prices channel, we are planning soon to start doing somewhat regular live streams. And it's because what we're going to talk about kind of on a weekly basis, if we do a once a week thing, we'll talk about the house. So just kind of the plans we have, what we've been able to accomplish or not. And I haven't felt comfortable doing that yet because there were so many things I hadn't made any decisions about. So we're starting to firm up kind of some of our choices on the house. So we're going to start to talk about that in some live sessions over on Midlife Prices. And well, I'll probably even bring up that SketchUp drawing, or maybe I'll make a video where I share that SketchUp
once
drawing
a week
on the screen.
or we were thinking maybe Wednesday
It would probably be weekly.
We
We tried to almost do it right before Christmas here, but then we got sidetracked a little bit, and it's the holidays, and so we haven't set it up yet. But we're thinking about maybe a Wednesday night, hour, to talk about house plans as we go.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, I finally feel comfortable. I think that I have made a few decisions about what we think we want to do with some things. And number two, if anybody's been following along with the carport build, I didn't put any of the carport videos out, which I'm not done with yet, but I didn't put any of them out until after the carport was actually finished. I don't know if you knew that or not, but it was finished before we started putting any videos out. And what happened was
Wednesdays on Midlife Prices.
Yeah, I think so. What happened was some people gave us some really good ideas, some really good advice for the carport, but I was already done. So I would like to start having discussions about what our thoughts are about the house, so that if somebody has a really good idea, they can kind of catch me before I go down that road too far, right? So I'd like to start talking about the house live on our Midlife Prices channel. So we will keep an eye out for that.
What was that say?
He knew that the carport was done before we started showing videos.
I look like I got punched in the face because at nighttime,
a little red from wind.
You know what I think it is? At nighttime, it gets down to it's like 50 degrees in here, 45 or 50.
Oh, it's in the 40s.
So your head is freezing. Maybe I should start wearing a bag over my head.
So I got a little sidetracked, but the point is,
I'm sorry. I always get sidetracked.
We want to do some live to talk about the house plans. We're starting to firm some things up. We're not all the way down the road yet, of course. I haven't decided exactly how we're going to do wiring and things like that, but Bill will be doing these things too, and we'll be talking along the way. And
thank you, Rusty. I think
what else?
will we wrap it up? We're going to wrap it up here pretty soon because it's about my nap time. If I want to stay up till midnight tonight.
So
when do you pick up the bales?
So I need to make some phone calls or visit, because I get we can get them locally here in town. I don't know yet how the timing. We're looking for March roughly is when we want to do our bale walls. I'm not sure how that's going to jive with bales being available. Anybody who buys bales, Jim, you should know a little bit.
We should warn
bales
them.
aren't always available.
We
you know,
should
they
call
kind of
now
depend
and
on-
tell them.
So I have to get with our feed store guy here in Benson, who I think we're going to get them from, and make sure that they'll be available in that time frame. So I don't know for sure, but our goal is in the March time frame, and the reason for that is I think that gives us time to work our foundation, our footer that we're going to set these things on. That gives us about 2 months to work on that, and that also should, again, although this year hasn't had much, or this season hasn't had a whole lot of water, but under a normal season, you would hope that March to probably March to June time frame should be quite dry. So we're going to shoot for March to start with bales, so that we'll hopefully be dry
How
for several
many
months.
bales will be using?
It should be in the neighborhood. So I used SketchUp for this too. I drew a bale in SketchUp, and then I plopped a bunch of them around, the size of what I think our place is going to be, and I raised it up to 8 feet, and it was about 120. So I think it'll be in the neighborhood of 120. I believe Bill got 125, and theirs is about the same size as ours.
Don't worry, Jim.
So
he will take his time. Don't you worry.
Yeah, I'm gonna rush it. I won't be rushing it.
He has never rushed anything.
But
He waited
don't get me
4
wrong.
years to ask
Regardless
me
of whether you rush
to
or
marry
not,
him.
that foundation is something that has freaked me out for a long time, and it's one of the reasons we haven't made much of a move yet, because I've been trying to get comfortable with something other than concrete, because I'm not a fan of concrete. I think I've settled on something that I feel pretty comfortable with.
Doing the carport has helped him a lot.
Sure.
Because of the foundation is going to be similar to that.
Always buy more than you need. We will overbuy, and that straw will get used. So, but I believe that our house will require in the neighborhood of 120, and that's actually just the walls. You got to remember, we'll use straw for the plaster as well. So that'll be more. So we will overbuy by some margin, but the walls themselves should need in the neighborhood of 120, give or take, and that jives with what Bill's been doing too. And we're looking at about the same size.
Oh, I have a question. So at what point will the extra solar panels get hooked up?
That could happen, really any time. Right now we're trying to work the water situation and get a foundation, footer prepped at the same time. The electrical move, the repositioning of the solar, or the move of the solar stuff, can kind of happen anywhere along that time. Obviously, anytime if we move it too soon, like if we wanted to move it tomorrow, say, the issue you have is that our trailer is very far away from it. So what I'd like to do is either wait until maybe the last minute, when we think we're almost ready to leave the trailer and go to the house and then make that move at that point. Or if we want to do it sooner than that, when we move the power, we may also move our trailer. We may also just move our trailer to a different spot on the land for the last few whatever months it takes or whatever. Because the issue we have right now is our ultimate power location and our trailer location are pretty far apart, and that needs wires that cost money, potentially a lot of money. So we want to kind of, the timing on that is delicate. You want to be careful how you do that.
What Rusty asked now, what does that say?
Now, you don't use bales as inside walls, right? Oh, okay, like interior walls, like a bedroom or a whatever. You could, although they would be very thick and take up a lot of room.
What we would probably do is a cob wall, which is basically just a skinnier mud wall.
We're considering adobe bricks, cob, which is essentially the same thing, just in a different form.
And possibly bottles. Throw some bottles in there somewhere.
So you could do stick frame walls. You could do some sort of earthen wall on the inside. You could do bale walls on the inside, except you'd be using up a lot of your interior space for bales because they're thick. Can you cut the
bale in half or just use extra?
Well, now you got to retie and all.
Well, so the cob wall has a lot of straw in it. Sure. So the more straw you use, the stronger it would be, right?
The reason I don't think we're just going to do stick frame on the interior, which you could, we're trying to have our house be kind of, we're trying to let nature work for us, right? So one of the ways to let nature work for us, which is also a reason we would like an earthen floor, is when that sun comes in, in the winter, we want that sun to hit the floor and hit the walls, and we want those walls to kind of act like a battery, right? To store that heat and hold it. So it'll pull the heat out of the air in the summer, and it'll hold it, and it won't release it until later when it gets cooler. And in the winter, same thing. It'll kind of hold that heat, and when it needs to release it back into the room, hopefully it'll release it back in the room. So anyway, the point is we want to do earthen walls interior, whether that be cob or adobe brick or whatever, earth. And the point of that is we want that to act like a heater, a battery. We want it to store the energy from the sun.
Does it cool also?
It does. It will. So in the summertime, which, by the way, in the summertime, hopefully the idea is the sun doesn't really come in the windows because it's higher in the sky, and you have overhangs.
Plus, we have a big mountain that blocks the sun as well.
But even so, the hotter air, the idea is that earthen wall will absorb that heat and pull it in and hold it. And maybe not release it until nighttime when it's cooler. It'll let it back out. So it's all about it. It wants to achieve a balance. That earth wants to achieve a balance.
So Rusty asked, why not put
bales widthwise and make them thinner for inside walls? Interesting. So we are actually, and this is, where's Ozark Duke? He's is that Missouri or something? Okay. So us being in Arizona, it turns out if you think of a bale, it's wider than it is tall. Let's say if you look at it, let's say you think about laying it down flat. If you think of it like a brick, let's say it's on the short side. It's short this way and wider this way, right? And like 4 feet long-ish this way or whatever. It turns out we're actually going to do our exterior walls by turning that bale on its side. We can get away with that because we're in Arizona. If you were somewhere else, you might not want to turn that up on its side. You might want that whole thickness. We don't actually need that whole thickness because we're in Arizona. So we actually will, and we learned this from the Canelo project and others, that we actually can turn our bales, even for our exterior walls, we're going to turn them up on end. So we'll have the kind of the thinnest dimension as our exterior wall. It's going to turn out to be about 14 inches. And then you'll put plaster on both sides of that, pretty thick plaster, so it'll get a little bit bigger. But we will already be using the bales as thin as we can use them without cutting them down, even for our exterior walls. So for the interior walls, I don't think it makes sense to use bale. It's just too big. So there's Off-Grid Simple Living. Hey guys. These guys have built a house, right?
They haven't built the house yet, have they?
Oh, maybe
I don't think so. We watch a lot of different channels.
I might have mixed it up.
No,
sorry.
These are the ones that I think they prefer to stay anonymous.
Is that the containers with the roof between the containers?
I don't even know. I don't think I know their names.
I might have mixed them up. Sorry, guys. Are you the containers with the roof over the containers between the two containers?
And their channel kind of blew up real fast because.
So those are some more thoughts
very good.
on our house. And just to reiterate, we are planning very soon to set up regular lives. We think it's probably going to be Wednesday evenings where we're going to start to talk about our house from week to week, our plans and things we do.
Yeah,
there you go.
Right.
Container barn. Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Good to see you guys. So yeah, keep on the lookout for that from Midlife Prices. We're gonna talk weekly about our house plans and what we plan to do and what we've been able to do, and so we're gonna follow a lot of other examples. What we're doing is very similar to what the Upside Downsizing Bill and Yvonne are doing. There are some differences. They've built theirs up on a platform. We're not going to do that. We are going to try and do an earthen floor inside.
We're kind of up on a hill, so we don't really need to be.
It's not really necessary in our case, I don't think.
As high as them. All I can say is whatever you do, thank you,
Glad
Rusty. We should probably.
Yeah, we've been on almost an hour, so
yeah,
we can call it quits. But just wanted to let people know we're up to.
Oven. I got my checks mixed.
And we've been trying to. This was also a test. I don't know if everybody, the last time we tried a live on Midlife Prices, we screwed it all up, and we scheduled it, and then when we went to start it, it wasn't there, and we had to change it. So this is also us trying to work out the kinks here.
Thank you, Jim.
I think we're a little more comfortable with setting up the lives now. So.
Thank you, Taylor, Melissa, and Simple Living. What else, Brian?
I think that's about it for now. But yeah, we're getting started.
Look for regular lives now on Wednesday evenings, probably about 6
We'll obviously send out a message when we've actually set it up, but that's our plan, is to go Wednesdays, probably 6-ish Arizona time in the evening.
And everybody be careful tonight. We're staying home.
Stay safe, everybody. I doubt too many people are going out, but stay safe.
All right. How do I end this? Just
Well,
end.
you just have
Okay.
Sandstream. All right, we're heading out,
Alrighty.
guys. Thanks
Happy
for joining
New
us.
Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
See y'all later. Bye.
Bye-bye. It warns you.